It's Thursday, July 8th, 2026, and welcome to episode 136 of the Driving Forward podcast. Whether you're joining us live or listening on one of our 18 platforms, including Wreaths Across America Radio, where we broadcast every Tuesday evening from 4 to 5 p.m. Central Time, we appreciate your support. Coming up over the next, few months here, we've got the North Carolina Management Conference. I think Susan Mayo is headed there. The week after, we're at TCA Refrigerated. We're going to be doing a bunch of recordings at TCA Refrigerated. So if you're a carrier there and want to sit down and do a quick interview, we'd love to do that. Also, I have a session about selecting, maintaining, managing, and the effects of technology in the industry as well. So looking forward to that event. Following up, we have Minnesota Trucking Association annual conference as well, also on a panel with our guest. Actually, our guest is leading the panel, so I'm on his panel. But, it's going to be all about Dale Prax. So, but Dale's on there as well. I think we have Mike McDonough from McDonough Truck Line. We're talking about fraud and security within the industry. So that'll be a great one also. So today's guest has seen the industry from just about every seat that you can. Todd Waldron spent over 5 years at C.H. Robinson, 6 years at J.B. Hunt, where he helped build J.B. Hunt 360, one of the industry's first digital freight marketplaces. He served as the CEO of Q Carriers, an asset-based carrier in 3PL right here in Minnesota, and actually where I met him at, which we've discussed is kind of odd that we didn't meet each other until later in life because we are people of a certain age. But Q Carriers based right here in Minnesota, and he was most recently the vice president of carrier experience at Truck Stop, where he became, I shouldn't say became, where his loudest voice started advocating for carriers in a brutal freight market. So now he's on to a new challenge as chief commercial officer at Repower, the trailer sharing marketplace that's trying to fix one of the most overlooked problems in freight. Trailers sitting idle roughly 40 or more % of their working lives. So broker, asset carrier, load board, freight tech, Todd's done pretty much everything. And today we're going to get his take on where the market is headed and the issues that are keeping carriers and brokers up at night. So Todd, welcome to the show.
Nate the Great, what's going on?
Yes, sir. Man? It feels like I'm talking to you on all kinds of different platforms these days.
Yeah.
My
got 11 platforms that you're displaying on, plus that we're talking on multiple different.
Yeah. Well, last week we flipped the switch and did a recording where you got to kind of grill me. So that was fun.
That was a good time.
So
now I'm ready.
How have you been generally?
Good, man. Doing good. I can't believe how rapidly summer is disappearing. It's always wild to me how fast time flies. But it's definitely been a fun summer joining Repower and then everything else going on with the kids and sports and all sorts of things. Obviously the 4th, so been doing very well.
Yeah, I feel like in previous years July 4th hits and you're like, man, the summer's over. This year July 4th hit and I go, wait, stop. I haven't even started summer yet. Yeah. It's been a fast moving year. So
no doubt.
So bigger things on the horizon for you. What have you been up to at Repower here?
Yeah, man, it's been a rapid, fast 2 months being at Repower as the chief commercial officer, and company that's been around for 4 or 5 years. And is really hitting their stride from a scale perspective, and being able to really bring some new products to market and really grow the folks that we're reaching. So it's been a great experience being a part of this. A company that's already established the product market fit component of the journey, and now really about the adding on. We got a great executive team now, and really focused on how we grow, and bring one of the new optimization platforms to market that we're going to talk about, and some other things. But it's just great, a great culmination of all my experience, right? From being in brokerage to being in the asset side with a large asset company, and then running a small asset company, and then the marketplace component at both JB Hunt, but then at Truck Stop from a marketplace perspective, and at Repower being ultimately a marketplace business for the trailing fleet. It just kind of is the culmination of all those different components and learnings and experience. So I've really enjoyed it, and still have a chance to go out and be in front of be at conferences, but be in front of customers and do more customer experience or customer visits than I've done previously. So it's been a wild ride, but it's been fun.
You've been out there hitting customers too. I mean, that's quite a few.
Yes.
How many have you hit in the last 2 months?
Probably already 10 to 15 just in face to face. And that was like through my onboarding period. It was
Sure,
get up and go.
sure.
So yeah, it's been great. And I miss that. I hadn't had as much in some of my last role, hadn't had as much. I had customer interactions at conferences, but it's not as much of the in-person meetings and face-to-face meetings. Obviously at Cube Carriers, we went through the COVID period of time. And then
Right.
my kind of roles after that were a little bit less of indirect or direct customer meetings. And it's like I've always loved that experience of sitting down, being face to face with somebody, and just figuring out how to do unique things, solve problems, and improve what we can do for them. So
I got the chance to sit in with you and Chris Hines, your CEO, for
yes.
one of those meetings. So that was beneficial. I wanted to learn more about Repower, and got to spend a couple hours with you guys there. So that was eye-opening as well on all the stuff that you guys are handling and pursuing. So that was a lot of fun. One thing, so your previous role at Truck Stop was around carrier advocacy, and then now you're out visiting a bunch of carriers as well, primarily. I mean, there's brokers on that list too.
Yep.
What what have you been hearing from carriers or brokers the most over the last few visits that kind of stick with you? What's the common narrative or the primary concerns from the operators out there?
Yeah, great point. I mean, one of them is definitely been how to do more with less, like less expenses, lower cost, because while the market's gotten stronger and improved, there's this realization that we went through a 3-year market deficit, if not more, and you almost need to match that with an additional 3 years to even get your head above
Right, to
water
get
or
out of
even
it.
stand
Yeah.
for the future. Yeah. And so that's been a lot of the context, is how do we lower in an environment where so many costs are increasing and there's so much pressure against, how do we do more and how do we be more creative? And how can we lower our like relocation costs, or the cost of managing, or the overhead that we have, the cost that we have invested in our equipment and infrastructure? How do we lower that, and how can we be more creative with our spend in order to be more efficient and do more with less? So that's a big one. And then that just kind of the other component is the liability, safety, and security aspect of things. And what does this not only mean for brokers after we get we're kind of entering a new period after the whole Supreme Court deal, and
Right.
what's that mean for brokers? What's that mean for carriers? On both sides of that, and you look at it as everybody's got different opinions. Is it going to be beneficial of the large brokers and large carriers, or is it going to be beneficial to small brokers and small carriers? I think there could be arguments made for both, quite honestly. But everybody's definitely got opinions. But at the end of the day, everybody is focused on, one, internally, what are their processes? But two, what are the processes for outside vendors and partners and relationships like a Repower or anybody else, to make sure that they understand all of the things that are going into what's happening from a security standpoint.
Security is a huge topic, and it's widely. I was actually supposed to talk about it yesterday. We ended up going off path and not talk about it when I was on with Charles. But security is a huge topic, and it's not just the operators anymore. It's everybody in support of it, and all of the a lot of solutions are pretty soft when it comes to it. It's one of our vetting. It's one of the first things we vet when we talk to a new solution is their security now, and that's the best way to kind of slim the list down from the mass quantity of providers that are out there. But certainly I'm hearing the same thing. How do we do more with less? That's a common narrative, I think. Well, if you go back 40 years, it's been the narrative, right? Ever since deregulation,
Yep.
rates have not met costs. So we've
Yep.
found ways to operate cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And now, in similar to a repower type solution, you're getting creative on, hey, what can we do to eliminate this cost as a carrier, as the owner of equipment, or potentially even make a little bit of money on that equipment that's sitting there idle.
Yep.
So, we've gotten to the point of we're turning over every possible chip that we can. Every piece to the puzzle is being used. We're having to find any avenue that we can to increase revenue or decrease costs, and it's getting pretty creative, if you ask me. I mean, there's not just in relation with trailers, but any and all things. There's ways to save money, and it's definitely a little different. The other thing that to acknowledge what you said about the market, it was a 3-year plus down market, but the expenses that came out of that may equate to more than 3 years. So, you see the rates taking off, um, and a lot of people are questioning that, but the reality of it is carriers are still struggling even with the higher rates. They're
Yep.
not able to perform in a fashion. Their war chests are gone. Their equipment is old. You need to start getting your fleet optimized like you had previous to the significant downturn that we went through, and that's going to take time, and it's going to take them making some money
Yep.
for a while and storing it back up.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a journey. There's no doubt about it.
For sure. And in one-way transportation and trucking, you also have this pressure of as new technology comes in and things evolve and change at a faster pace for like us providers, shippers also have the same things that are happening, right? They might have more data, more intelligence, and might change and adjust their routing guides or have new people come in to try new things. And there's not a lot of people that talk about the disruption that takes place when a routing guide changes for a one-way carrier. Like, I'm pricing this business from point A to point B, but the way I'm pricing it is dependent on how I'm getting back from B back to A.
Right.
And as soon as one of those components gets out of whack, it messes up my entire network. And so your ability, if things were constantly changing, and that's what we saw in COVID when I was managing asset companies, was that, yeah, the rates started increasing post COVID, but our networks kept getting out of line because we had a lot of food service business that shut
Sure.
down for a while, and then we had some changes. And so that is such a tricky thing. And I always say, shippers expect you to build the church for Easter. Like they expect you to have 100% capacity for your entire routing guide award,
Right.
but yet you only get 60% of it the majority of the time. Well, they're going to come with 100% the same time everybody else is coming from to with 100% of expectations, but I can in no way handle enough capacity to solidify that. I have to spread that out based off of what the typical average is, until things hit the fan, but just because of the way trucking economics works. But that points to why it's so necessary to be more flexible and to have more creative solutions. And a lot of people are throwing AI solutions and tech at improving the people cost and being more efficient. But if you look at something like repower, it's really about the infrastructure and the actual equipment and the ways you can be more creative with how you execute the freight and what are ways to help you in doing that. But
Well, you're maximizing the utilization and revenue created off of a fixed asset. And so that's different than, I mean, people you could debatably say are a fixed asset. I mean, once they're on board, you're paying a certain salary, right? But you always have the option of just cutting that loose. You have the option of selling trailers as well, but to the point of building the house for Easter, you have to be prepared for Easter.
Yeah.
So, on the carrier side, trailers are gold. And if you are purchasing them, they are a great way to create value in your organization. So, but putting 2 loads a month on a trailer is significantly, well, in some companies that's perfectly good utilization, but what you guys are kind of answering, saying, hey, we can do better than that, and help reduce some of those fixed expenses.
Yep.
So
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been this evolution, especially and when we were kind of first starting as a company, there's a lot of excess trailer capacity, and so there was a value proposition in making money off of idle assets, which is still very true today. But in today's environment, a lot of what we've been seeing for the larger carriers is there's so much money spent in relocating equipment and balancing trailer pools. And so, to be where we've just seen a lot of value and success that we're bringing to the market is the ability to eliminate, in a lot of cases, that cost that's incurred to relocate and balance the pools, and even in cases provide a revenue back to the supplier and the trailer supplier in this instance to in that effort to balance. And so you're seeing that's just one example of, hey, you're able to much more effectively and efficiently get your trailers moved to where they need to be to service your customers, than some of the prior ways you're kind of doing it before. But and that's what led to this our top platform, the transportation optimization platform, that we've launched. That's really all about a holistic view of your trailer network, and then drilling down to the location level, managing the location in the pools, to ensure that you have the necessary trailers there and ready in order to service your customers.
and in looking at top, I just taking my own experience now, I go into and visit a large number of fleets, and one of my questions I'll typically have for them is, how are your trailer pools? How well do you manage your trailer pools? And so you're probably the first to market that I would say is a trailer specialist building a tool to monitor and manage trailers, their locations, and how they impact your network. Um, I liked what I saw there. This is kind of a big deal for a lot of mid market and larger fleets that don't just know where their trailers are at, right?
Yep.
Above and beyond that, you have that click of, I want to move a trailer. I need 3 trailers in this particular region, location, customer zone, whatever. What's the most optimum way to move them there? You guys have the capacity to be able to say, take this trailer from here and this trailer from here and this trailer from here, and this is why. So it doesn't just say move it, it says this is why you should do it this way, which may include a third party to move that for you through your network. So
Yep.
kind of hit that on the head, but is there anything I'm missing about top there?
No, I think that's a great example. The thing for me is I look at it as two components as you're trying to, balance and deal with your trailers, right? There's an understanding what's happening and taking action against what's happening. And so top kind of scratches both itches, right? Where one, there's organizations, mid to large carriers have a varying degree of visibility into their trailer pools. They're all looking at them. They're all managing them. They all balance them, and then 8 a.m. they're in balance, and by 8:15 they're out of balance. Right?
They're out of balance, yeah,
Yeah.
and some are way worse than that. Some of them couldn't tell you.
Yes.
So it's
But some have some, whether it's spreadsheets or dashboards, they have a process for understanding. And so top one kind of brings that into a centralized place and gives you both mapping visuals as well as data visuals, and understanding about your pool balance, where they're at, and then even drilling into being able to very in detail manage what's the limits, how many trailers should be in this pool, what's the high low limits, and things like that. So managing and viewing the components. But then two, when the trailers out of or the pools are out of balance, there hasn't been a tool that says, well, what do I do now? Do I go send an email to somebody to move it? Do I move it with my internal driver? This actually then can automate that process of saying these two pools are connected. This one's high and this one's low. So I'm automatically going to move from pool A to pool B and post it in the marketplace. And that all happens without my intervention, right? And so it's taking it into that execution layer that says, now I know what's happening. I can set the parameters, but then also I can set it up so that in where I want it to automatically start that moving process, it can execute against those moves for me. And so that's what makes it really powerful is then combining those two components, where it's like some of the things, the tools they put in place have only scratched one or a portion of those itches. This kind of takes and tackles the whole problem.
No, I don't know of any other solution out there that's tackling this one, and it's a issue that every fleet really has, and as you said, in varying uh, scale. But I think the reality of it is a lot of fleets struggle with this. So in a big way, the smaller the fleet, there's like a bell curve, right? The larger the fleet, the more likely they're on par. They have their physical location of trailers and their digital location of trailers, and everything kind of jives. But the mid market really struggles with this, and there might be 10 trailers in a location, but they're only accounting for 3 digitally, or there's 10 but 7 of the 10 are the wrong ones, and digitally they don't pair up. So today you have lots of tools that you can use to level that out, and this is where that economy of scale typically hits with the larger fleet, where they actually have staff dealing with it, versus a mid-market group. Maybe you have one person that's checking it once in a blue moon when they're not getting screamed at on the phone by whatever problem. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, a lot of this has to do with the price of a trailer too, right? So your trailer, back when I was buying trailers, I could buy a brand new dry van for like 20 grand. It's not that number anymore. Refrigerated trailers are extremely expensive. So increased costs, certainly make this a lot more desirable to hunt after than what they were before. So before, buy the trailer, let it sit, and we're okay. So today, not so much. So we were talking security before. Why don't you talk a little bit about security with how you guys are vetting everybody?
Yeah, that obviously became a huge, important part, a year, 2 years ago, being a marketplace. And so we implemented and have components for security kind of across the life cycle of a trailer within the system, and even on from it moving when it's in move and in a rental or relocation scenario. As you start, it's about the identity and verifying who's the person that's renting or will be participating. And so we have a partnership with Highway, and so we can actually control or connect with folks that have Highway instances and automatically utilize their criteria and or set more generalized criteria that supports and looks at the carriers that are allowed to be in the marketplace. But then also there's some deeper level controls to be able to control which carriers see your trailers and can't see your trailers. So there's ability to tailor. Not only do we have those protections in place to make sure that there's only good actors in the overall ecosystem, but then two, to be able to tweak it down as a supplier or trailer owner who I'm allowing to see, view, and rent my trailers. And then beyond that, we also have partnership with Genlogs. So we quickly realized that it's one part of it is obviously the front end verification, but it's not enough in today's day and age to only know who has my trailer 80% of the time. I need to know 100% of the time who has my trailer. And so tracking integrations, but then things like Genlogs to be able to ensure that the trailer's still connected with the truck that was originally assigned to it, and that no new DOT number has been taped over the side of the truck, et cetera, et cetera. ELD integrations through Katina, and so we have a partnership with them to be able to continue have additional tracking components, and so those are some of the things where it's definitely it's incumbent on us to not just rely or be dependent on the selection criteria from who's maybe moving a load that might be on the trailer. It's really about, hey, ensuring that the taking the steps to ensure that the people that are hauling and renting or moving these trailers are, legitimate providers, safe, secure, and that we know who's moving the equipment at all times. Because that was one of your early concerns
Right.
with trailer interchange to begin with. And I think over the last 10 years, we've seen that, or even five, we've seen that start to evolve as the power only movement has really been taking hold. And like we said, people have been more open to sharing, and APIs allow for deeper, more data sharing and more visibility. And so as interchange turn digital and we're able to more quickly do it, we've started to see a breaking down of that concern. But then as fraud comes in, that inserts a new layer of concern that then we've put guardrails around to ensure that that's, not a risk. And then we have digital supplier agreements, digital interchanges, and et cetera from a legal standpoint, obviously. So
So if I'm a mid-sized fleet or a small fleet working with you, does this give me some levers I can pull to deal with drop and hook freight that I wouldn't have had previously? And if so, how?
yeah, there's a couple ways. And so one, it lets you participate maybe in a bigger trailer pool program than you might not be set up for today. And so I like to talk about whether it's an on ramp with a new customer that you might not know what the volume is going to be, or it's a project, or it's something where you need a higher trailer ratio than you have currently, but you might be able to get the drivers or something to support it, or you look at it from do a power only brokerage standpoint. But as a small carrier, you can now supply additional, have a little excess trailers to participate in drop trailers. Two, if your trailers broke down or you have a trailer broke down, rather than sitting, you can then find a piece of equipment to utilize while your trailer might be getting repaired. Three, if you want to do mode switching, if maybe you've done dry van in the past, but you have some reefer lanes potential or vice versa, you can utilize a trailer on reef power for a period of time, to be able to maximize your revenue and then switch between multiple modes or different offerings. And so there's, a few different ways. The mid-size, the smaller carriers that might have more than one driver, it gives them a
Sure.
chance to kind of have a higher trailer pool and or subsidize their trailer pool, so they don't need to have the excess trailers that, again, to build the church for Easter. Well, they can have the really a certain level of trailers that they own or lease, but then they can supplement that and have confidence that I can still service the business, whether I need to bring more in for a month or 3 months or a period of time, even longer than that. The nice thing is it's non-contract, it's varying by days. So you can have, a couple day rental up to, 60 plus days. And so there's a lot of flexibility in that, where you're not getting, necessarily tied into something where you don't know what the business is going to look like.
No, that's great. And that kind of brought up a thought. And to add to that, if I'm a broker looking for trailer capacity in any way, shape, or form, you could, and there's those projects that always come up where
Oh,
whether it's warehouse on wheels or whatnot, you have the possibility to be able to apply that in that fashion. Have you seen people do that too?
yeah, absolutely. There's a couple ways we engage with brokers and have seen benefit. I've just been on a couple calls this week where, brokers participating have tried for many years, even, since I started 17 years ago, trying to participate in drop trailer, business as a broker has been tough. Now you've seen the rise of power only brokerage and some other, solutions, but this really helps and enables people and brokers to be able to um, bid and participate and execute drop trailer freight. And so we're seeing a fair amount of that, whether it's project based or it's ongoing business. We can participate. What we do, we can get involved in the RFP process, provide trailer rates and pricing, that you can have confidence going to your shipper in and actually placing a bid for the overall freight movement with the trailer costs, included and considered in that. And so we see that often, or they just need a project for storage, or, for a customer, trailer storage, or other type of unique one-off moves. Again, I go back to the flexibility thing too. Rather than having to go out, if you're getting into power only or do some power only already, rather than going out and exerting the capital to buy the trailers, this as a perfect on ramp for growing and scaling a power only solution. We also have a program out there for brokers called Carrier Connect, where they can refer their carrier partners. So they might have a shipment going, a power only shipment that already has a trailer assigned for their carriers, but then they can refer and connect their carriers to Repower, and then they in turn get a share or percentage from that as well. And so it's a great referral partnership program that we're seeing a lot of brokers engage with too, where they might not want to be the ones that rent the trailer, but they can either connect their carriers for loads that they want to haul, and or just to support them in their other backhauls and things like that.
Perfect. No,
Yeah.
it's an answer to a thing. So, and it's always been a thing, but it's certainly an answer to it. And sounds like there's lots of, well, we probably haven't, you guys haven't probably all even figured out everything that you potentially can do there yet. But there's a journey ahead. So I think we'll take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk just briefly. We have a GLCS technology summit coming up in August here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into more about what you're up to and maybe talk some more industry stuff here. So we will be back in a couple.
If your fleet's downtime looks like chaos, you're missing out on GLCS. In the time-critical world of trucking and logistics, every minute counts. Meet GLCS, your expert partner in managed IT and technology services. We integrate seamlessly with your team, bringing seasoned IT professionals with deep trucking and logistics expertise. Imagine your software updates running smoothly, complex issues resolved quickly, and operations humming with efficiency. GLCS has your back. Our support doesn't just fix problems, it prevents them with our industry connections and proactive approach. We keep your trucks rolling and your brokers working. Think of us as the added resource your company needs to unleash its full potential. Visit glcs.net today and keep your business driving forward. GLCS, where efficiency meets expertise.
And we're back. So we're going to talk a little bit about something we have coming up. I don't know if we have a visual for this or not. Oh, we do. So August 10th and 11th in Bloomington, Minnesota, we're having our first GLCS Technology Summit, and save everybody an eye roll. There's no sales pitches, none whatsoever. Not a single slide deck that's going to try to close you on a solution. And the reason why is most technology problems in transportation logistics, they don't really show up in a demo. They show up after you go live, when your integration isn't working right, when telematics data is not clean, when order to cash processes start leaking money themselves. So you don't even know the issues necessarily that you're going to have until they surface on their own. So this summit's built for the people who live with that every day, for ops, IT, finance, leadership, the folks running the show. it's 90-minute deep dives, facilitated conversations, not massive PowerPoint. So 15 to 20 minutes discussion to set the table on the topic, which maybe something like cybersecurity or integrations or operations processes or ELD data or AI, and then discussion amongst peers and the leaders that are in the room around what they're doing today to solve the actual problem. We're capping the overall attendance. We don't want to exceed a certain size. We're able to handle a certain number of people and don't want to overextend. So looking forward to seeing everybody there. Once again, it's the August 10th and 11th. It's $350 to attend, so we're really not making any money on this. We're covering the cost of feeding everybody and going about it that way. So if you have any questions, reach out to me on LinkedIn via email at njohnson@glcs.net or anyone else in the organization that you might have, and we'll supply a link in the comments too if anyone wishes to join us. We have a Eventbrite you can sign up in. So. All right, we are back. You know what? I should have grabbed that picture of you the other day. I could have come out of break with that. Man, that was a missed opportunity.
I tell everybody about my idea, the mobile NDA, where if you're out and about, you get people, you pull up your app and touch phones or touch, and you've just signed the NDA.
Yep. There's no distribution of anything that happens over this particular period. You might have to put a timeline to it, but I see that could be your major break there, man.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Hit this button and anything that happens the next 24 hours is nothing. I mean, we cannot talk about that. Right, absolutely. So so let's go back to the market a little bit. Once again, you're visiting a lot of different companies. If it's 15 over 2 months, that's quite a few. So we're seeing signs of life in the market. Some people call it all kinds of different things. But we also see some companies that are very tentative about their approach. We see other folks, especially in refrigerated and flatbed, they're buying trucks and saying, let's go. So do you feel like this is the real turnaround, or what's your thoughts on where we're actually at?
Yes, great question. I still think we're going to see ebbs and flows, right? But I do feel like there's this foundational shift taking place with all of the pressure on the fringe capacity that's been flooding the market since even before COVID, right? And so I think there's still a lot to be determined yet. There's still a lot of things taking shape from an economy and a political standpoint, and a lot of things that could impact the demand side. But I just see such a long-term pressure that's kind of starting to continue to grow on the supply side of carriers, that I think will have a meaningful impact for a few years at least. I think you could see some of the bigger fleets or the more established fleets quickly replacing that. But I think there's going to be a lot of caution. I think we are seeing some, fleets definitely grow in the current environment, but maybe this is just hopeful. And this isn't speaking to kind of from meeting conversation or anything. This is just my general take,
Sure.
After 17 years in the market. But I would expect some level of caution, that as we step back into this. Not saying that people aren't going to grow or add additional capacity, but maybe a little bit less of chasing the gold rush like was after COVID, right? Is because we've gone through this period. Not everybody will, but I think you certainly see an impact of that. And so I'm hopeful. I do believe that we're going to continue to see and see upward momentum and have a strong market for an extended period of time. But the shipment and demand side is the big watch out for me is that I don't know if we've necessarily seen a huge fall off or a lot of pressure on the demand side that I think, as we the economy shakes out and things happen, I think we could potentially see, a decrease in what people are consuming, or a definite movement downward in what people are consuming, what people are using, then and what people are spending their money on. And so that's where my concern or risk lies. But I think in the capacity front, I think there's so much pressure that will prevent and help mute the gold rush effect that we've seen in so many previous years, and most particularly amplified in COVID. But
Yeah, I agree with that statement. I mean, when you look at it right now, we came out of a really bad market, in my opinion. And the problem is there's no data that really drives this, because we've never been in this scenario before. So we came out of a really bad market into a not great market. And so, to the point of a supply-led recovery, um, we're not seeing that demand. I mean, the demand may be getting a little better, but it's not traditional demand from housing, automotive, consumer spending, whatnot. It's demand because, well, it's all. I mean, it's very, very little increase in freight when you really get down to it. But to resurface, we're now struggling to get drivers back behind the wheel. So, it's funny how that pendulum swings when we need it to. But so, to that point, everyone needs to start looking at the jobs you're having drivers do. But it is 100% a supply-led recovery right now. But it's not really a recovery. It's more over a lifeline, I think, more than anything else. It's
yeah,
I wouldn't call it recovering. I'd say, well, Jamie Hagan put out this repost from a gentleman. I don't even know who it is, and he must own a trucking company, because he's like, I am so broke until Monday, and then I'm rich, and then on Friday I'm broke again. So I mean, it was hilarious how he was talking about it. How he's like, hey, I got rid of my water coolers, blah, blah, blah. But then, by the time I get done doing this or whatever, I'm out there looking at nicer water coolers, because now I'm back to normal. It's just it's a freaking yo-yo. The industry's always been that way, but coming out of the black hole over the last 3 years, we don't really know what to expect right now, which is why, a lot of people are very tentative about where they're currently at. How do you feel like people should be positioning themselves kind of in the supply-led recovery? What's if you were still operating, what would you be doing right now?
yeah, great. I really ensuring in being creative in your customer relationships, right? And everybody preaches and talks about it, but I think there's a lot in that. One of the things, especially as running an asset company, one of the things that's a differentiator is, how do you utilize information and data? It might not be the technology and the process stuff. That's some of it. The AI, all that does help add value, but really it's about the data, right? The data that enables AI, the data that we can present and share, is definitely a big value proposition. And so that's just two of the components of how to be creative in your relationship building, and that also helps to be prepared for conversations and to be able to talk through why this freight is important to you and why it's important to your network. Right. And so instead of relying on the tried and true on time performance and other components, which are important, but this allows you to show that you're kind of thinking differently. Right. And so that's that's at the foundation. Yeah. And then the other is, um, again, being creative, right? And finding ways to be creative in how you're servicing and executing the freight, that might involve technology. It might be process changes, but it might also involve thinking differently about the way freight is moved, and the way that you're utilizing and thinking about equipment, whether it's equipment purchases, or the utilization of the equipment. I think are, other components that are so necessary to have flexibility in an environment that really commands, as we look at it, we trace this back up to the volatility in shipper routing guides and shipper freight movements. There needs to be a certain level of flexibility in different types of solutions to align with how that freight's moving. And you saw that in the evolution of brokerage and asset companies starting brokerages, right? It was all in the spirit of flexibility and solution generation. And so, looking at from a repower lens, the trailer side of that, but also other ways to be creative and deliver unique solutions is something that drives sustainability in relationships and that really helps drive through markets and continue on beyond the markets. But
So on that side, because we're very much in alignment on the relationship side of the industry.
Yep.
I know I wrote about it. I think it was our 10-year anniversary post that I wrote out about how 10 years ago or 30 years ago, we're all trying to solve the exact same problem we were solving 30 years ago. And it's how do we make our people stronger, better, faster? How do we treat them better? It really comes down to the people, and no matter what we're doing, we're still looking at that. So something you've talked about, and you're just here now, but many times throughout the couple of years I've known you, is balancing that technology with the human connection. As AI is coming forward, as whatnot. So as tech continues to automate more of the freight life cycle, how do we keep that relationship side from getting completely stripped out?
yeah, I think that's so important. In It's something that's essential to an AI, rollout and development strategy is AI can essentially take over so many components of what's happening, including now the agentic or the relational component of relationships. And I think there's a place for that, but I think it one needs to be met with and cannot replace the whole relationship or all the components of that relationship. And so it's about identifying what are the pieces of this that might be meaningful for both sides of the relationship to get automation from, and how to then identify where are the touch points that are imperative to this relationship today. Where are the times where I pick up the phone? I mean, even settling an appointment, there's components of that conversation where I'm talking to Nate, we're setting an appointment, but then we talk about the weekend, we talk about what happened. There's a component of that relationship that, like it or not, can impact your relationship with that shipper as an overall, right? Nate walks by, he might be appointment scheduling, but he walks by the boss and the other boss, and he's talking about how the jerk from so-and-so, Todd, was so mean to him. And that thing can impact your relationship. So every one of those interactions could have an impact. So now I have to think about how can I replace those interaction points if I'm automating or digitizing this component. How can I replace those actions or those relational connection points? Because if I don't have a reason to call you anymore, Nate, because now it's all automated, I have to find a reason and or desire to pick up the phone and understand what's happening behind the scenes, so that if an issue comes up or everything else, that relationship is so key to solving problems quickly, but then also maintaining business. Obviously, that's a big part of staying in business and doing what it is that relationship's going to be the pivotal aspect of maintaining, because there's going to be an issue. There's going to be an issue with the tech, on-time service, trucks, etc. And so if you all of a sudden wake up and everything's digitized and you don't have a relationship, well, guess what? Now there's nobody, they don't know who to call, they don't know what to do, and they just kick you out because now Nate doesn't know Todd and doesn't interact with him. And so there's no phone call heads up that there's been an issue, etc. So that's my small
Perfect.
ramble on it.
No, I mean, we're definitely in alignment. I've started using the term, if I can define a linear process, that should probably be something we should consider a technology for.
Yeah.
But if I'm not using the word linear, then potentially we need to keep it human.
Yep.
and this industry will chase the cheaper expense. So there's no doubt about that. It'll chase that every time, but in many situations we'll take 3 steps forward and then turn around and need to take 2 steps back because, hey, this isn't the right thing to do. Whether it's for a customer, for employees or whatnot, but it always is how it impacts the people.
Yep.
And, somewhere down the road, automation is fully coming. I mean, there's no doubt, but probably isn't in our lifetime, even though, I'm continually surprised by what I'm able to do by using various tools and how fast it can make me, but it doesn't stop me from being the point of contact for customer and employee interaction. So 100% behind that. So, kind of circling, I'm gonna hit you with the rapid fire questions too. So just be prepared; they're coming. And I should have probably shared them with you ahead of time. You guys at least gave me that courtesy. But for kind of the final question before we go to rapid fire, what if you're a small carrier or broker or anyone out there that's been through this downturn, what's your advice for navigating over the next 12 months for them?
Yeah, I would say always, right. You have to be executing and getting business done. In transportation, so much of what's happening is stuff that's coming at us. And so you have to continue to do that and continue to execute, while at the same time have your eyes out facing forward and looking at what's coming and what I need to be perceiving and preparing for in the future. That's a tricky balance to take. Too often people are pre-wired or are wired one way or the other, are wired to just get it done and figure it out, or they're wired to kind of be like off in la la land and look at what's coming in the future. And so to balance and maintain not only an individual visibility of both or actions in both, but an organizational muscle and ability to continue to do what needs to get done to get the business done today, while at the same time thinking about planning and executing on what's going to be needed to continue to grow the business tomorrow. And so I think that would probably be off the top of my head the primary thing to be really focused about. Obviously, I could talk about that question for days on end.
Sure.
But I think that's the hardest thing, that people get stuck in one camp or the other, right? They get stuck in, we're just trying to make it through the day. Our customers are yelling at us. We're trying to maintain them. So we're scrambling to get the loads done. We just need to do better. We just need to do better. And you never get out of that cycle if you don't spend time to be focused on, okay, we're going to still do this for this period of time, but these are the steps that are getting us out of this repetitive cycle.
No, perfect answer. Could talk about it for the next hour if we wanted to, but
we should start a class.
Yeah, perfect answer. So yeah, that's it should be a consultant or something.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah.
No, any good
all right. So rapid fire. We got a few minutes here. So rapid fire. I got a bunch of questions. So spot or contract, where would you put your money for the back half of 2026?
Oh man. So where would I put my money if I'm betting, like what's going to be
what would you, so if you're a operator,
contract?
Let's say answer that for a broker and then answer that for a trucking company.
For both, I'd say contract. We talked about this earlier, like, or just kind of you talked about the short-term cost, or trying to benefit from short-term costs. But I always look at, we talk about margin, but I would always say we're maximizing long-term margin. So instead of making decisions that impact today, well, it might be great or whatever today from a spot case, or it might even be better, in the back half of the year. I'm always going to go contract, because I think that helps you build and solidify and know what's happening and plan against it.
And, I certainly support the brokers of the world, and those that are moving spot. But, some of my early mentors told me, you're building your business, not someone else's. And why there's, contract business is defined differently than what it was when I first started the industry. there's no way, or almost no way, I would have included certain brokerages in that contract. Now you can go out and get a contract with CH. They're your customer, right?
Yep.
20, 30 years ago, the minds behind the business wouldn't have agreed with that today. They would have called that brokerage, right? So the difference between spot and committed freight is that. But I'm 100%. I'm always a contract guy.
If you're going to
through and
force me
through,
in an
so.
either or, right? You
Yeah.
forced it.
Fair enough.
I love spot. I love the brokers that do well at participating.
Yeah,
in spot.
I mean, if I'm a broker, I like negotiating. But that being said, I can move 10 loads in one click of a button on contract. So, so it's hard to say, but you can certainly get a good rip on the spot side. So, we've all been there. So, all right, next one. One word to describe the freight market right now. Just one word.
Unique.
Fair enough. Best career advice you ever got at C.H. Robinson or J.B. Hunt?
There's a couple definite things that come to mind. One, it was just to use short story. It wasn't even like a direct advice, but it was indirect in that I had a chance to take a sales trip with a sales manager at CH Robinson and was brokering freight and hadn't taken the time to put into the sales calls. I'd block off time and do research and do things, etc. And so 3 or 4 weeks came by and that sales manager pulled me aside and just kind of laid into me. And like, if I had this opportunity with so-and-so, I'd get it done, in a week or what have you. And that next week I had 3 or 4 meetings set up for us to go on a sales trip. And it just reiterated for me the importance of just doing and not letting excuses get in the way of what you need to be doing. And so I can always say I always have something else going on, etc. But if I really want to do something and put my mind to it, you just got to go and do it and not be afraid or scared. But that's the one that comes off the top of my head. I'll probably think of one that's awesome.
Yeah.
As we sign
right
off,
after we're
they'll
signing
pop in my
off.
head.
Yeah, that's what always happens. Ooh, I had a
Like,
good
I
one.
mean, and I had the chance to work with Shelly Simpson and so many people. It's like there's tons of lessons that I learned in that experience and work with Shelly and Stuart Scott on the IT side, and so many other mentors at JB Hunt, but also at CH. So it's like, man, if I should take the time to kind of write down some thoughts on that, because there's a lot for sure.
Yeah. No, fair enough. 2 more. I'm going to try to get 2 more in before we close out. Will an autonomous truck pull a repower trailer in the next 5 years? Yes or no?
5 years?
5 years.
I can say yes.
Yeah.
And this is
I would probably
this
do that
is for lawyers and all that. This is not for foreshadowing or
no, we're not
forward-looking
holding you to
statement.
that by all means. So
you had to try to repower it.
all right. So final one. What's a phrase everyone in freight uses that you never want to hear again?
Please advise. Sorry, Reed. Sorry, Reed. And I mean, he's made it funny, but it's funny because it was so dang annoying.
It was so true. Yeah, please advise. So mine on that is unprecedented times.
Yeah.
So I'm done with that. I've heard that so many times over the last 5 years that, but yeah, please advise. That one didn't pop into my mind until you said it. So
yeah, you've heard that an unprecedented amount of times.
Yes, absolutely. All right, man. Well, where can people find you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, Todd at repower.com, REPOWR.com or repower.com. I'm also on LinkedIn a lot, is kind of the most common place. But yeah, go check out the website, put in a request, or even reach out to me directly.
Perfect. As always, appreciate the time. It's been good chatting. I'm sure we'll catch up again here pretty soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Nate.
All right. Thanks a lot, Todd. That's a wrap. So thanks to Todd Waldron, the Chief Commercial Officer at Repower, for an honest look at where this market really stands and for making the case that the the humble trailer sitting idle 40% of its life might just be one of the larger untapped assets in trucking. If there's one thing you can take away from today, it's that carriers who come out of the cycle strongest won't be the ones who waited for the rates to save them. You really got to think about that. They're not waiting for something to happen; they're making it happen. They're squeezing out more of what they already own. And Todd spent his whole career on that problem, from the brokerage floor to the C-suite. So with that, we're wrapping it up. Stay curious, stay informed, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Until next time, drive forward with purpose and innovation. Thanks for watching.